Experience work interactions in a different and refreshing light. This is the Leader in You podcast, brought to you by EMC Leaders, taking care of the teams you care about. We bring the science of attachment and emotional connection with insight from the last 20 years to share how you can overcome conflict issues at work and build strong team relationships, as well as the connected culture.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Leader in You podcast brought to you by EMC Leaders. My name is Paulina, and I'm so excited to be here co-hosting this podcast alongside my amazing mom, Dr. Lola Gershfeld.
Hi, Paulinочка. Oh. Hi, Paulina. So nice to be here. It's so good. It's December 16th, and we're almost to the end of the year. I can't believe it. Happy Hanukkah.
Yay! Yes, guys, we are so excited to be here this week. We are so grateful to be celebrating Hanukkah, which is the Festival of Lights. And we wanted to bring this topic into our podcast today because light is so much stronger than darkness. And it coincides so perfectly with what we teach here in the Leader in You podcast and what we teach with the EMC process. It's really a process about bringing light into your relationships. It's a process about bringing hope and bringing resilience. And actually, the celebration of Hanukkah and the celebration of light is bringing hope and resilience to our everyday lives. And that it's actually not like it's not a in the Bible or the Torah was like mandated for us to light candles. It's actually the celebration of the miracle that occurred. So it coincides so beautifully with what we're going to talk about today. And whether you celebrate Hanukkah or not, we are in the spirit of the holidays, and Christmas is just right around the corner, which we'll be celebrating as well, along with New Year's, which is such an important to bring light to your life. So today we decided to talk about why does the EMC process make such a positive effect on us, and how is it different than any other process that's out there that can help create a thriving environment in your life. So, Dr. Lola, are you still there?
Yes.
Are you frozen? What happened? I saw you left. You went to another.
No, I'm just into it, what you're saying. I love the introduction, and I love the fact of the light, right? Because It's so true. I feel like without the EMC process, before I was in the dark.
Yes.
And now I have seen the light, because to me, the missing piece of all the training programs that I have gone through is the relational glue. It's what really makes those skills usable under pressure. It's that the EMC process gives us that skill and the roadmap to not just intellectually understand the process, but actually experience. It really what makes the nervous system relax and helps us to deal with and regain our balance when we are under stress or when we're in conflict. And it's very empowering to the person who learns the EMC process, and it's very empowering to the people around the person who knows the process. Just a quick example to you. I was talking to someone who was disconnected with another person. And when they were disconnected, during a meeting, they made a comment that was demeaning to the other person. Mm-hmm. And so when I was talking to them about it, first I noticed that they became defensive.
Okay.
And when they became defensive, I slowed it down. I started to reassure them. I tuned into what was happening for them. And I started to reflect what were they saying. And as I was reassuring and slowing it down and really understanding how difficult it is for them, like I was tuning into their emotional experience, suddenly they started to be more relaxed and more calm. Well, without the EMC process, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to attune to their emotions. I wouldn't be able to slow things down and even know what does it even look like to slow things down. So I felt like the EMC process gave me those skills. So people, when I help somebody to understand what's going on for them, I really feel like it helps me to create that safety. So they don't feel judged or criticized. They feel like I'm with them in that experience.
So let's go a little bit deeper in that and dive into the specifics. So, what are some of from a psychology perspective, what are some of the differences that the EMC process has that other conflict resolution processes or programs or systems that are used in the workplace don't have?
Well, other programs focus on behavioral changes, where we also focus. I mean, we all want the behavior to change, right, through the process. But what is the difference is we don't tell people to change behavior. We help them to understand what happens to them in their experience and how they get stuck in this repetitive or responsive patterns that actually creates more and more distress and conflict within their teams. And through that process, not only they start to understand and change their responses, which changes their behavior, but also they start to become more emotionally intelligent. So it's interesting that our process is geared toward conflict resolution or conflict repair, where at the end, the person becomes emotionally intelligent. They gain skills how to create more connection. They gain skills how to repair relationships with other people. And they also gain skills how to create a culture of connection, a culture of connection where people feel nurtured and supported and loved and cared for. Just like you started with this podcast, it brings the light into that relationship.
That's so well beautifully said. So how does the process shift a trainer's confidence? What do you think is like, or when they're presenting or their presence, when they're able to deal with conflicts with their teams and amongst the people that are in the teams or their companies, or the company environment, the culture, how does it help with their confidence?
Well, I think it provides a huge amount of confidence because number one, EMC is based on the science of attachment, humanistic theory, system theory, and neuroscience. So there's a whole body of research that is done that provides that framework to trainers to know that this process works. It understands relationships. Relationships have a structure, emotions have a structure. So when trainers are understand and use the AMC process, they feel confident that this roadmap will get people to where they want to be, which is always connection. And the way the brain, how it works, and the way they understand about the responses and emotions provides them the skills, the roadmap, and the attachment framework to understand how to address difficulties when managers and teams are experiencing difficulties.
That's so well said. I love it. Oh, you froze. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, amazing. So tell me more about like the different, so there's 8 different steps in how this process works. And I do notice that when we did the speaking at one of the conferences, there were some people that mentioned they had used other processes and other trainings in their company that only provided like short-term benefits and short-term relief within the conflicts, but they didn't really see that it was long-term consistent improvement. And so can you give us a little bit more insight to the difference between how is it impacting teams long term in relational as opposed to processes that are only helping teams short term?
Well, a short-term approach really, I think, address symptoms in the in the conflict, so to speak. For example, if people are being either aggressive or maybe people are not following through with their commitments. So short-term models address the behavioral problems that they see. So they see the symptoms and they try to explain and rationalize people why they behave this way and what is the purpose of that behavior and what's the benefit of that behavior. So everything is through logic to understand, rational understanding. The problem is when people feel disconnected in their relationships, in their work relationships, in their team relationships, their logic is not very accessible because the amygdala, when people are distressed, they are in a protection mode all the time. So they might, go along with the training when they go to these trainings or when they work with a coach, but that behavior is difficult to sustain when they're with the person who they get triggered with, or when they with the person who they're disconnected with. So as an example, for example, when you're in a meeting and you are disconnected with a particular team member, you will start to behave differently in front of them because you either going to shut down and avoid them, or you're going to try to make sarcastic comments to just poke at them or make demeaning comments. I remember being in this meeting with an executive team, and the CEO was very disconnected with one of the directors. And every time the director spoke at the meeting, the CEO would not look at her. And
Mm-hmm.
the more she didn't look at her, the more director talked at the meeting, trying to say something to her. And you could tell, you could notice that the CEO was not looking at her, and everybody noticed that. So these type of experiences, it's hard to understand that this is what happens to us in the moment when we get distressed, when we get disconnected. So if they are going to a training where they're trying to understand rationally what happens to them, and they shouldn't do that, they should be engaged, they should look at the person, and then they go back to the meeting and they get triggered and they feel all that hurt or pain and feeling maybe this person betrayed them somehow or let them down. It's hard, it will be very hard for them to look at them. So they respond by protecting themselves, which is avoid. But in the EMC process, what happens is we start to organize each person's experience. And that organization helps people to understand how they get stuck in these repetitive patterns, which
Mm-hmm.
actually creates more and more distress for them. So, by understanding the emotions and by understanding their experience, they start to be more in balance. So, they can look at the person, they can understand, and they can create more safety in the relationship.
That's amazing. I think it's like such, I like that we really tried to nail in all of this information by repeating it over and over again because we don't necessarily hear it or really quite can't make sense of it when we first start to learn about this. But as we have more exposure and understanding and we listen over and over to really make sense of what is happening with us and the team, then it starts to take that effect on keeping the team together. So, talking about keeping the team together, if I know you have said before, like the emotional connection is the glue that holds teams together, especially under pressure or in conflicts or in different situations that can be really difficult. So, what would you say is like important in the organization? Who's important in the organization in really knowing how to, keep the peace, keep the balance, bring people back to the emotional balance, responsible for all that?
Well, obviously, the leader is the key attachment figure that is responsible because they are the most effective, the most impactful person. Is like parents. The parents are the most important role models in the family unit. The same thing with the team and with the company. The CEO or the management team, the leadership team is the most important to create that safety for everybody. And I want to say that, let's say the leadership team is not in tune in this important process. Anyone really can make a difference. It's harder when you go from a different place, but I remember serving on this board where I was the youngest, the junior board member. And I was the youngest member of that board. And I was the one who was trying to make a difference and say, I think we're getting stuck in a negative cycle. And at first, people would reject, and people had all these reactions. But I had to understand that what I'm doing is the right thing because we all seek connection. And because I understood the process of why people did what they did, I started to co regulate their emotions and my emotions. We teach people how to self regulate, but the most effective way to regain balance is to co regulate each other's emotions. And you know how sometimes you talk to your kids and you say, I'm here. It's going to be okay. Nobody's a bad guy. I love you. You matter to me. You're important to me. I'm right here. You're not alone. Right. So you're co regulating, you are providing, you tuning in, you providing the reassurance. So I feel like, yes, the leader can learn and makes the biggest impact on the company, on the team, emotional safety. But it's really anyone can learn this process and start to be the role model on how to co-regulate people's emotions, how to regain that balance.
I definitely think that if you were not in a leadership role and you're listening and you learn this process and you're able to really integrate it and implement it into your relationships, wouldn't you say that there's a possibility that they would have a better chance of getting promotion?
Absolutely.
Because
Because
now they have a
people,
skill
yes,
most leaders don't have, right?
exactly. And this is, people watch, and good role modeling attracts people, other people, because they want to create safety. They want to feel safe. So as soon as you start to feel, you see, you're like, wow, this is amazing how this person was able to relax, how was able to reconnect people and bring people back to the conversation. That is an amazing skill. And yes, I agree with you, they would be more prone to be promoted for sure.
Well, I want to just kind of rewind the tape to back to what you were saying about your experience and your situation where you were a junior board member. And the reason why I want to take it there is because I feel like one of the things that you don't talk enough about, Dr. Lola, is your personal experience. Because I think a lot of people who suffer or have suffered as much as you did in the workplace where you worked, they kind of stay in that victim mindset. They stay stuck. And every position that they move to in different organizations, or if they find themselves moving around to different companies, they stay in that same pattern so that that pattern continues to repeat itself. And I noticed that it's very rare to have someone like you who has been through so much suffering in the workplace prior and really stuck in your own conflicts with other team members to be so determined and really, really have that fire and desire to change that environment. And I think that shows so much. It's incredible. You're really amazing to have that strength and that fire to want to make a difference. And so, and the reason why I bring this up is because EMC process came from the suffering that you endured. And instead of feeling stuck and staying in that space, you really said, no, that I'm not going to live like this anymore. And I can only imagine that there are other people in the workplace that are suffering as much as I am. And I want to show people the light that has so brightly been shining in your life after what you've learned and used what you've created. So tell us, what really was that, you said to yourself, I don't want to suffer anymore. There's no way that this is possible. What drives that inside you to then create something so incredible that changed your life?
Pauline, as you sharing this, I feel so honored that you asked me this question because it was so painful.
Yeah.
The journey of being stuck in these negative patterns where you come to work, you feel excited, and then boom, you hit an invisible wall and you're sitting in your office crying, or you're walking around the building barefoot and trying to figure out what's going on. And I was I love learning, and I went through so many different training programs, from Franklin
Mm-hmm.
Covey to build, the speed of trust, to difficult conversations, to all kinds of different training programs, trying to find the answer. Emotional intelligence, all of these training programs was giving me some hope, but they did not provide me with the answer because I was still getting stuck in these conflicts. And it was painful for me to see it on myself, and painful for me to see what was happening with the company, that we were not able to grow. We got to the same level, like the one level, and we were not able to grow. We were not able to really experience the excitement that we used to experience, where we used to laugh and collaborate and create all these products together. That pain was so deep, and that suffering was so long. As a young professional, I don't want people to suffer. And so when I learn this process, and when I see the change, it happens when people actually go through understanding the skills and the roadmap and use the process, it re-energizes me. People need to have this hope. They need to know that there is a process that we can learn. We can understand emotions. We can understand the language, how to repair relationships. We can get out of the negative cycles, and there is a way out. So my desire comes from that really long standing pain. I would say for 15 long years, I was suffering in the workplace as an HR manager, as a CFO, as a board member, as a business owner. And it's really that desperation to say, there are people who are suffering right now, because people are not taught this process. They are not taught how to repair and build strong relationships.
And you want them to have hope.
I want them to have hope, and I want uh, trainers to know managers are suffering, people are suffering, and they can bring this process into their company, because everybody needs to learn how to work and repair and strengthen relationships.
Oh, well, I love that. And, I think that what I want to emphasize is you are incredible to have experienced so much tragedy, which is how I view it, and to come out of it with so much strength, and now to have turned it into some tangible process that's very easily duplicated and useful in the workplace and at home, and that has completely transformed your life. And so I think that's incredible. And I think that it's very important for you to also hear this over and over again, that most people sit in their tragedy and most people point their fingers at others. This is what we're taught to do ineffectively, blame, shame, judge, and criticize others, but not you. You did something that most people would never do, which is to turn your tragedy into the greatest triumph in your life. And now you're here sharing it with everyone else. Everyone, the world.
Not to say that I wasn't in that place when I blamed and judged and criticized. And I also looked at myself and I suddenly saw that I was angry all the time. And I wasn't an angry person before. I was a happy person before.
Yeah.
So we lose ourselves. We start to recognize, wow, we lose ourselves in these negative cycles and we don't know what to do. We feel so helpless. And we're so inept to deal with our emotions, what's going on. So I feel like when I started to experience this connection and started to gain my own back myself, I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing. This needs to be taught to everyone because people are suffering and struggling in the workplace. And I don't want them to suffer and struggle in the workplace.
Well, you guys, you heard it from Dr. Lola yourselves. You heard it. We are so grateful for your time and energy. And thank you so much for sharing all that, Mom. I think it's so important to just bring it back to how it resonates so much with the celebration of light and the holidays in general, and how much the EMC process has brought light to your life and to your relationships in the workplace and out of the workplace. And that's what we're here to do. And that's why EMC process is different than any process out there, because it literally brings light back into your life. It brings light back into the workplace, and it brings light back into your heart. So we wish you a very happy Hanukkah if you're celebrating Hanukkah. And of course, we will be back next week for more of this. And remember, you can always reach out to us, emcleaders.com, or you can email either Dr. Lola or myself, Polina, at emcleaders.com. Mom, would you like to add?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Polina, to bringing this topic. I think that's very, very nice. And it does remind me of how powerful we can be when we have the right tools and the roadmap to our connection. So thank you so much, everyone. It's so nice to be here. Happy Hanukkah and happy holidays.
Remember to visit us on the web or on YouTube channel to find out more information how you can bring light back into your life. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. It's a joy to share these podcasts with you. Be sure to check out our previous podcasts and subscribe to join us at our next podcast of The Leader in You, brought to you by EMC Leaders, taking care of the teams you care about. Until then, be well and be focused on your relationships. We'll see you soon.